Phantom Kangaroos, although a phenomenon with a rather humorous title, is an anomaly that is blurring the lines between the studies of cryptozoology and the ghosts of the paranormal. Since the late 1890s, these out-of-place creatures have been seen sporadically throughout, mainly in the United States. They were seen so often that in 1974, policemen in Chicago were almost able to capture one with handcuffs, before it managed to attack them briefly and escape. But what is a phantom kangaroo exactly? The phenomenon is described as witnessing a kangaroo, usually from afar, in places they are not native to. Some reports also describe them as being abnormally larger or a different shade of color than your average marsupial. This video consists of an organized timeline of the sightings, and some possible explanations as to what so many are seeing. During the F5 tornado of Wisconsin on June 12, 1899, aka the 9th deadliest tornado in US history to this day, our first sighting of the phantom kangaroo occurred. During the deadly storm, an unnamed woman reported that she witnessed a large kangaroo leaping around her backyard, while everyone was hiding inside their houses, and the intense wind was picking up anything not bolted to the ground. This creature, oddly enough, was just perfectly fine hopping around. It eventually left the area and was not seen again. One common explanation for this is the fact that the circus was in the area at the time, but the main rebuttal to that claim is that there were no kangaroos reported in their possession. A family in Mays Landing, New Jersey, in 1900, reported having heard strange sounds coming from their barn. Upon further investigation, a creature, looking nearly identical to a kangaroo, leapt out when they opened the door. It was said to be the size of a small calf, and in their own words, weighed roughly 150 pounds. After the animal escaped the barn, the family reported seeing its tracks, 8 to 10 feet apart, coming and going from a swamp near the edge of their property. It is unclear as to where this animal came from, and how it ended up in their barn. Sometime in 1907, newspapers in Pennsburg, Pennsylvania, reported sightings of a strange animal near Pleasant Run. Witnesses described a fast-moving creature that appeared to hop or bounce like a kangaroo. Observers who saw it standing still described it as gray in color, with a sheep-like head, large feet, and a thick tail. Reports claimed the animal fled rapidly when approached. In one account, dogs that were released to pursue the creature were allegedly struck and injured by powerful kicks rather than bites or scratches. In 1934, near South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, several witnesses reported sightings over 5 days of an unusual creature described as a kangaroo or a kangaroo-like beast. According to contemporary accounts, the creature was said to have attacked and killed several farm animals, including ducks, geese, and even a German shepherd, along with other dogs. Witnesses emphasized that kangaroos are typically herbivorous and not known for aggressive behavior, such as hunting prey, adding to the confusion surrounding the reports. One observer described the animal as resembling a large kangaroo running and leaping across a field. A search party reportedly followed tracks believed to belong to the creature into a nearby mountainside area where they ended at the entrance to a cave. Despite the search effort, the animal was never located. The story received national newspaper attention, but was later met with skepticism and ridicule, as no physical evidence or verified explanation for the sightings was ever found. A bus driver named Louis Staub was driving down a road between Columbus and Akron. It was then reported that a strange creature began to hop across the road in front of him, described as around 5.5 feet tall and covered in short brown hair. It had a long, pointed head, and was able to easily leap over a tall barbed wire fence on the other side of the highway before disappearing. He ominously stated that he knew for a fact that it was not a deer. Sourced from the January 10th edition of the Cincinnati Post. On July 28th of 1958, a man named Charles Wetzel saw a deer-like animal chasing some dogs by his cabin on the Platte River near Grand Island in Nebraska. When he got within 10 yards of it, he realized it was a kangaroo. It bounded away into an alfalfa field, taking strides that were 10 feet long each. Wetzel, who operated a brewery, was so taken aback by the experience that he named one of his beer brands Wetzel Kangaroo Beer. A few of you watching may recognize the name Charles Wetzel, as just 4 months later, on November 8th of that year, another man named Charles Wetzel hit a large lanky humanoid in Riverside, California. It's unknown if there is a correlation, of course, but I doubt there is. Between 1957 and 1967, countless residents of the Minneapolis suburbs reported seeing kangaroos, sometimes multiple, coming and going from a wooded area near the Anoka County Fairgrounds. The sporadic sightings happened for over a decade before coming to an end. One such testimony came from the two sons of one woman, Barbara Batmer. The boys claimed to have seen two kangaroos hopping through an expanse of the aforementioned forests near where they were playing. They described the creatures as 5 feet tall, with a color combination of browns, ranging from light tan to medium brown. The Enfield Monster is one of the strangest cryptid encounters in American folklore. The creature was reportedly seen around the small town of Enfield, Illinois, in April and May of 1973. The sightings attracted widespread media attention, and over the years, skeptics have suggested that witnesses may have actually encountered an escaped kangaroo. The most famous sighting occurred around 10 p.m. on April 25, 1973, when resident Henry McDaniel heard scratching at his front door. Looking outside, he initially thought he was looking at a bear. Armed with a flashlight and a gun, he stepped outside and spotted a bizarre creature standing between 2 rose bushes. McDaniel described it as having 3 legs, a short gray body, 2 small arms, and 2 pink eyes as bright as flashlights. He estimated that it stood around 4.5 feet tall and almost looked human. McDaniel fired 4 shots at the creature, claiming that one struck it. According to his account, the animal responded with a hiss similar to a wildcat's before fleeing toward a nearby railroad. He said it covered nearly 50 feet in just 3 giant leaps. When authorities arrived, they found unusual tracks in the soil near the house. McDaniel described the prints as dog-like, but with 6 toe pads. Investigators involved reportedly considered him a rational and sober witness. Other witnesses in the area came forward, including a 10-year-old who claimed the creature attacked him and shredded his tennis shoes. Several explanations were proposed for the mysterious creature. One popular theory suggested that it was an escaped kangaroo, since a kangaroo's tail can appear like a third leg. McDaniel strongly rejected this idea, stating that he had actually owned a pet kangaroo while serving in Australia, and stated he knew what one looked like. He argued that the creature's face and footprints did not match those of a kangaroo. Interestingly, after the story gained national attention, an Ohio man contacted a newspaper claiming the creature might have been his missing pet kangaroo, named Macy, which had disappeared the previous year. Sometime in 1974, in Chicago, a 911 call came in from a distressed resident who reported a kangaroo-like creature on their property. 2 police officers, Leonard Siagi and Michael Byrne, drove over to investigate. Originally thinking it was some sort of prank call, the men were shocked to see a 5-foot-tall kangaroo in one alleyway they were searching. The 2 policemen tried to handcuff the creature, but it managed to dodge their attempts, kicking Leonard Siagi in the leg, and hopped over a fence, and escaped. Sightings and similar reports would occur throughout the Midwest for the remainder of 1974, in rural towns in Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. On July 14th of 1975, a woman named Rosemary Hopwood was driving along Route 128 near Dalton City when an unknown creature approached the side of the road. She described it as a 2.5 to 5 foot tall quadrupedal kangaroo that stared at her vehicle for a moment. It then turned around and hopped away on 2 legs into a cornfield. Sometime in 1978, in Menomonee Falls, 2 men were able to snap a photo of a kangaroo standing alongside the highway as they drove by. This photograph is now widely believed to be a hoax, as one of the men who was a witness to the scene was a known taxidermist, but it's still being debated today. In 1978, the Hazelik family of Waukesha, Wisconsin, was sitting down to enjoy a meal together as a family when they swore they saw a kangaroo jumping through their backyard. The father tried to give chase but couldn't catch up to the animal, either because it was too fast or because it was never truly there. Sometime in 1981, a man named Brian Joseph reported a disturbing encounter while living in Northern California. For months, he and others in the area had been hearing strange, screaming noises coming from the woods, with no clear source. One day, while out near a clearing 200 feet away, Joseph spotted what he initially believed was a deer, sitting in an unusual position, almost like a dog resting on the ground. At the same time, his dog noticed the figure and immediately ran toward it. That's when the situation changed. As the animal moved, he realized it wasn't a deer at all. He described it as taking massive, powerful hops, like a kangaroo, and as it fled, it emitted repeated bursts of the same, strange, screeching calls he had been hearing for months. His dog chased it briefly into a brush area, but the dog quickly returned. He questioned whether the sounds matched any known vocalizations made by kangaroos, stating they didn't resemble anything he could find in reference material. He even speculated whether the encounter could have been connected to a UFO sighting he and another witness had reported in the same region sometime the year prior. On August 4th of 1999, a woman named Lois Eckhart in Wellman, Iowa, discovered a kangaroo-like animal jumping among her cows while she was out in her field. The commotion of the cows apparently scared off the creature, and it fled the scene. Lois didn't even consider publishing her story in the newspapers until she saw a similar sighting weeks later in the paper. A couple in Ottawa reported a kangaroo about 16 miles south of the town. The Davis County Sheriff's Department did not have any reports of missing kangaroos, and the local Wilderness Kingdom Zoo was not missing any. One of the witnesses, Mary Stengel, stated how it bounced from the west side of the highway to the east. The first witness of the sightings in Iowa, Lois Eckhart, later published her story after seeing the other encounter and told Mary Stengel that she and her husband were not crazy. Sourced from the Daily Iowan, August 27, 1999 edition. The following case was first published in the 2001 novel America's Nightmare Monsters by Philip R. Rife. Sometime in September of 1999, at midnight, an unnamed teenager was driving home when a creature unlike anything he had ever seen before suddenly leapt out in front of his car from the side of the road. The witness had to slam on his brakes to avoid hitting whatever it was. As it hopped through the beams of his headlights, he estimated it stood between 3.5 to 4 feet tall, with fangs and a face resembling a cross between a cat and a bat. It had red eyes and long pointed ears. It also had small paws, equipped with 3-inch-long claws, and muscular hind legs, similar to those of a kangaroo. The creature appeared to be covered in long, black hair. Between 2002 and 2011, there was a series of Phantom Kangaroo sightings in the Miyama Mountain district of Osaki in Miyagi City. In total, the city had over 30 reports of the strange creatures, but not much else is known. The following was posted on February 29th, 2024, in the cryptozoology subreddit. My uncle was stalked by a creature back in the early 2000s. My uncle was working on a ranch in central Utah, and we believe this occurred in 2004. The nights leading up to the footage he captured, he and the ranch owners began hearing screeching noises similar to that of a distraught woman, but they just assumed it was a cougar and thought nothing of it, until he spotted this on an afternoon walk. Originally, he thought it was a coyote, until it stood up on 2 legs. Now he never leaves his house without his double-barrel shotgun. Any idea on what it could have been? Here is that footage. Two goose hunters in Oklahoma, sometime in December of 2013, were shocked to see a kangaroo coming toward them rapidly. One of the hunters, a man named Andrew Rice, managed to pull out his phone and record the animal, and the footage was later published on Facebook.
We're goose hunting right now, and there's literally a kangaroo getting ready to fucking jump by us. Oh my god, this is insane. What in the crap is going on? There it is! There it is! Oh my god. Here it comes. There it is! There it is! There's a fucking kangaroo! Woo!
The consensus from the footage is that it was an exotic pet kangaroo that went missing a year prior. The following story was posted on Reddit in 2020 on the Cryptid subreddit by user V. Vardendell. This is a story that happened to me in 2017, and I am now deciding to share. I was separated from 2 friends while exploring a small set of woods southwest of Lincoln, Nebraska. It was Sunday, October 1st, 2017, around 4:45 p.m. I remember this day vividly. The sun was still in the sky, and a deep ravine and woods were to my left, and tall corn was to my right. As I walked, knowing the area well, I was about 10 minutes away from the dirt road that would take me to my friend's cabin. I began to hear what sounded like a group of kids walking, light footsteps, indistinct chatter, laughter, all that, and so I thought I was nearing the road closer than I thought. Perhaps a group of kids was dropped off by the bus that stops every day near this road. No, eventually the footsteps grew louder and heavier, and began sounding like they came from a single source, and not in front as before, but from the cornfield, behind me. a weird transition in sound that is easier experienced than explained. I then heard what sounded like many children screaming, not in terror but excitement, as though on a roller coaster. I turned around to see a purple tail whip above the corn, and a loud thud from the dirt, then silence. Maybe the strangest part about it all was that the tail looked like a kangaroo's. I called this thing the Cornman. I didn't say anything about the Cornman to my friends for 9 months. Those 9 months later, however, I was in the passenger seat of my friend's vehicle, on the same road I saw the Cornman on, when he asked if any of us had seen something down there in the woods that looked like a kangaroo. And I lost it. I proceeded to explain to them both the same as I have said here. I then did research on Great Plains cryptids, and the stories of Phantom Kangaroos are all I found. Sometime in June of 2019, multiple calls came in of a kangaroo sighted on a walking bridge over I-41. Police responded and investigated, but no trace of any animal was ever found. The nearby Greenville Zoo was contacted, and upon questioning, they claimed all of their kangaroos were safe and accounted for. Very recently, in the first half of June of 2026, a kangaroo was sighted all over Montreal, and it even made the news. One elderly witness claimed that she knew what she saw, but she didn't even believe it herself. The marsupial was eventually captured, and experts believe that it was a red kangaroo that is only native to Australia. Over the years, there have been numerous explanations for this odd phenomenon, with the most plausible being that exotic pets or zoo animals had escaped. The second leading explanation is the common misidentification of wallabies, which just raises more questions, as they aren't native to the United States either. Some of these Phantom Kangaroo reports have been compared to the extinct giant short-faced kangaroo, known as the Procoptodon, a large herbivore that lived in Australia during the Pleistocene and likely traveled in small groups. However, reports of kangaroos attacking or even killing dogs are much harder to explain. While some have speculated about a surviving population of Echaltidata, a prehistoric fanged kangaroo that lived over 10 million years ago, there is no evidence that such animals survived into modern times. Folklorists and cryptozoologists Lauren Coleman and Mark A. Hall have also suggested that some phantom kangaroo sightings may actually be reports of so-called devil monkeys, another category of mysterious bipedal creatures reported in North America.